Trailblazer 119.
Today we're going to tell you the storyline of a movie called Plane, from the year 2023. This movie tells us the story of a flight of a Trailblazer plane, which was piloted by Captain Brodie Torrance. And he must be responsible for all the passengers, after the plane was suddenly hit by a storm. Without further ado, let's get into the video. But before we start, please support our channel by subscribing, and click the bell icon for future notifications. Now, let's start. The movie starts when a pilot named Brodie Torrance, who was about to fly a Trailblazer 119 plane to Tokyo from Singapore. He was assisted by a co-pilot named Samuel Dale. And right before takeoff, the head stewardess named Bonnie told Torrance that there was someone who wanted to meet him.
Captain Torrance, flight commander.
And it turns out that it was a police officer, who was there to ask for permission from Torrance to bring a murder suspect named Louis Gasper in that flight. It was a hard decision for him to make, since he wants to keep his passengers comfortable. But then the police officer managed to convince him, promising him that he would keep his eyes on Gasper. With a total of 14 passengers, the plane finally took off.
Thank you for flying Trailblazer.
Ready for pushback? Roger that.
Torrance and Dale actually had expected a storm in their way, but then it turns out that the storm went way beyond their expectation. A heavy storm was hitting the plane, causing severe turbulence to the plane. Captain Torrance then felt guilty to his passengers, apologized to them, and also reminded his passengers to keep on fastening their seatbelts, and told them that everything was under control. But then, when he was about to go back to the cockpit after checking on the passengers, another turbulence occurred, causing his head to bump pretty hard. Being wounded, he then decided to go back to the cockpit immediately to pilot the plane. Captain Torrance then tried to contact the air traffic control for permission to adjust their altitude to avoid the storm. But then they suddenly lost the radio contact to the ATC, and even underwent navigation failures due to the heavy storm. And he was left with no other choice than to do an emergency landing before the plane ran out of fuel and crashed. Due to the severe turbulence, Bonnie then reminded the passengers to stay calm in their seats, and to fasten their seatbelts. But then, the police officer decided to not listen to Bonnie, and went off of his seat to grab his fallen phone. Seeing that, a stewardess immediately went to him to stop him. But then unfortunately, the severe turbulence threw them pretty hard, and killed them. After going through the storm, Captain Torrance saw an island that he thought was able for them to use as a place for an emergency landing.
See that? Over there?
And without wasting any more time, he decided to land the Trailblazer on the island.
How did you?
Meanwhile, in the Trailblazer headquarters, they just got the news about the contact loss of their Trailblazer 119. Then they decided to track the plane through its flight path. In the unknown island, Captain Torrance urges his passengers to stay calm, and tells them that they need to survive there with the remaining foodstuffs. And as the captain, he then promised them to take full responsibility. Soon after, Torrance went back to the plane to put the bodies of the stewardess and the police officer in body bags, and took some important things off of the officer's body, such as his gun, and the handcuffs key. Besides that, he also went with Dale to repair some broken parts of the plane, and they also worked together to mark their location on a map. And after estimating their flight distance, Captain Torrance then concluded that they landed on an island in the Philippines. Hearing that, Dale was shocked, because he knew that the specific island was ruled by an armed militant group who feared nothing. There were no police or even law on the island. Even the Philippines armed forces refused to take the risk of kicking them off. Captain Torrance wasn't so comfortable with that fact, which then he released Gasper and took him to get into the woods together for help. Yup, sounds like a dumb idea to me, but whatever, moving on. While Captain Torrance was gone, Dale was still there to fix the plane. And surprisingly, he was able to fix it. But then again, it was pretty much useless since they did not have enough fuel to fly them back to Singapore. On the other hand, at the militants' headquarters, their leader named Dante Junmar received a report of a plane landed near the woods. Dante then told one of his men to check on the plane, to make sure that it was not a military aircraft. Back to Captain Torrance in the woods. He throws a lot of questions to Gasper, and from here we know that Gasper was a former French Foreign Legion, who was accused of murder 15 years ago. They then keep on talking, until Torrance looked back to the fact that Gasper has already escaped and gone. Torrance then decided to continue the search by himself, and not so long after, he saw a phone in an abandoned building. He then immediately reached for it, and called the headquarters for help. But then the headquarters thought that it was another prank call, after receiving a lot of prank calls about the crashed plane, and hung up.
Hello?
Torrance then decided to call his daughter, to tell her his location.
Hey, don't talk, just listen. Quick, write what I say.
But before he even finished talking, he was suddenly attacked by one of the rebels, and with a little of his fighting skill, he managed to defeat the rebel in a fierce fight. Soon after the fight, he heard a gunshot, and hit himself. And it turns out, the gunshot was from Gasper, who was not leaving Captain Torrance, but he sneaked instead, to steal the rebels' weapon. At the same time, the Trailblazer headquarters finally received the information about the lost plane from Torrance's daughter.
It won't be that easy.
Knowing about the island, an ex-special force named Scarsdale then sent some mercenaries to rescue them. Back with Captain Torrance and Gasper, when they were checking further inside the abandoned building, they found a lot of blood traces all over a room, with the camera in the middle of the room. And from that camera, they found some footage of innocent people, who were executed by the rebels in that room. This made Captain Torrance worried about his passengers, thus he rushed back to his plane. There, Data came with his men. The passengers initially thought that they were the rescue team, who were sent by the Philippines government, until they were running in fear. Captain Torrance, who had just arrived there, left speechless after he witnessed two of his passengers were murdered, after trying to escape the rebels. He tried to go there to save his passengers, but Gasper was holding him. Soon after, Dale and the passengers were told to get into the rebels' bus, and were taken away. Shortly after their departure, Captain Torrance and Gasper went out of their hideout and immediately murdered one of the rebels, who was ordered to take the passengers' valuables. One of the remaining rebels then was interrogated, and was forced to tell them about where they took the passengers to. And soon after the rebel told them the location, Gasper immediately shot him to death. Captain Torrance then left a message of the rebels' headquarters location, so that the rescue team would be able to catch up on them.
He just asked for him back.
Long story short, Captain Torrance and Gasper managed to find the rebels' headquarters. There they were forced to assassinate some of them, so that they could rescue the passengers. They went through the headquarters sneakily, since the headquarters was heavily guarded. And thanks to their epic teamwork, Captain Torrance and Gasper managed to find the hostages. The next thing to do was to find the safest way to get away from there. And the only way was to use the rebels' bus. After they all managed to get into the bus, Gasper told Captain Torrance that the headquarters outgate was guarded too heavily, so that it was impossible for them to get through safely. Hearing that, and seeing the anxious faces of his passengers, he then decided to sacrifice himself to distract the guards. He then went out of the bus, and told the rebels to release his passengers, and take him only instead. Hearing that, Data then ordered one of his men to assassinate the captain. But when he was getting beaten, the rescue team suddenly appeared, and saved Captain Torrance's life. Fully armed rescue team then managed to shatter the headquarters, and killed some of the rebels. Soon after, they went into the bus and sped back to the plane. There they were running with time, before Data reached and surrounded them. Captain Torrance then directed the passengers to enter the plane immediately, since they planned to escape the island with it. After all the passengers managed to enter the plane, the rescue team and Gasper were spreading around the area to defend the plane. Until Data and his men arrived, a shootout was inevitable.
Oh, Captain!
They didn't have much time. Moreover, after Captain Torrance told the rescue team that they only had 2 minutes to enter the plane, after he started the engine. And in the escape flight, Gasper didn't want to be included, since he was a fugitive, and he decided to support them from the land. When Captain Torrance was about to enter the plane, Data managed to shoot his leg, but then he ignored his pain, and made the passenger's safety his main priority. Meanwhile Gasper, who ran out of ammo, then broke open a bag near him. But how shocked he was, when he saw piles of cash in the bag. That seems like it was the pay for the mercenaries. After Captain Torrance started the engine, Datu and his men tried to stop them by shooting at the plane. And after the rescue team also managed to enter the plane, the rescue team leader called for Gasper, and told him to enter the plane as well. But then he took the money bag with him instead, and ran away. Datu was left with one last chance to stop the plane, which was with an RPG shot to the plane's engine. But fortunately, the plan was interrupted by Gasper, so that the shot was missed. But Datu had another RPG bullet, and when Datu himself was about to shoot, Captain Torrance sped up the plane to take off. And soon after, Gasper saw the rebels started to surround the place, and he decided to escape into the woods. Soon after taking off, with the hard work of Captain Torrance and Dale, his co-pilot, the plane then managed to be landed safely on a nearby airport, where the rescue team was already there waiting for them, and there, all of them were grateful to be saved, more with Captain Torrance, who managed to land them to safety.
Congratulations, everyone. You're a hell of a pilot.
And the movie ends.
Coming home.
What do you think of the movie? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and click the bell icon for future recaps notifications. And if you have any movie you want us to recap, please, do tell us in the comment as well. And until next time.